Good day, everyone. So, in this video, me and my groupmates are going to tackle about the comparative analysis between the National Building Code of the Philippines, the Fire Code of the Philippines, and the Accessibility Law. The National Building Code of the Philippines, or NBCP, is officially known as Presidential Decree Number 1096. It is a primary law governing building construction, design, occupancy, and maintenance in the Philippines. It was enacted in 1977 to ensure public safety, health, and general welfare by setting minimum standards for buildings and structures. The Fire Code of the Philippines, or Public Act Number 9514, also known as the Revised Fire Code of the Philippines of 2008. The law establishes fire safety regulations, fire prevention measures, and penalties for violations to protect lives and properties from fire hazards. The Accessibility Law, also known as Batas Mamansabilan 344, is a Philippine law that requires public and private buildings, transportation, and other facilities to have barrier-free environments in order to guarantee equal access and mobility for people with disabilities, the elderly, and people with mobility impairments. So the similarities of the three laws are these laws focus on public safety and welfare. They also require permits and compliance before building infrastructures. It is also administered by government agencies. And lastly, these laws are applicable to both public and private buildings. Moving on to the differences of the three laws. So the NBCP, or the National Building Code of the Philippines, focuses more on building safety and construction. Its regulating body are DPWH and LGUs. For the Fire Code of the Philippines, focuses more on fire prevention and safety. It is administered by the Bureau of Fire of the Philippines. And lastly, the Accessibility Law, it focuses more for accessibility for PWDs. Its regulating body are DPWH and LGUs also.
So today, I'm going to talk about the comparative analysis between the National Building Code, Fire Code, and Accessibility Code. Entrances. Minimum height of 1.8 meters both in Accessibility Code and National Building Code. Also, the minimum width is 1.5 meters between National Building Code and Accessibility Code. Egress. The minimum width of egress is 1.1 meters in National Building Code, but in the Fire Code is 0.915 meters. But in the dead end limits, they are both 6.0 meters. Parking areas. So the minimum width of parking areas is 3.7 meters, and the clear width of walkway from accessible spaces is 1.2 meters. This is the standard of both Accessibility Code and National Building Code. Doors. So the standard of doors is the same in three laws. So the minimum height is 2.0 meters, the clear width is 0.9 meters, the maximum width is 1.2 meters, the height of doorknob is 0.82 meters, the vertical pull handles is 1.6 meters above the floor, and the minimum level space is 1.50 meters by 1.50 meters. Ramps. The minimum width of ramps is 1.20 meters both in accessibility and National Building Code. But in the Fire Code, the standards is 1.12 meters. The maximum slope is 1.12 meters in those three laws. The maximum cross slope is 1.48 meters, and the maximum rise is 0.760 meters. The live load is not less than 488 kg per square meter, and the maximum length is 6.0 meters.
So I'm going to talk about windows. For doors and casement windows, according to Fire Code, the measurement is 0.61 by 1.98 meters. And for double hung windows, the measurement is 0.762 by 0.9144 meters. And for interior openings, according to National Building Code, the measurement is 0.007 meters. And for handrails, according to National Building Code and Accessibility Law, the height must be 0.70 to 1.06 meters. And according to Fire Code, the height must be 0.76 to 0.865 meters. And the inner handrail located within, according to Fire Code, 0.61 meters measures horizontally. And for the clearance handrail to wall, according to National Building Code and Accessibility Law, 0.05 meters attached to walls. And according to Fire Code, 0.38 meters. And for clearance between moving section, according to Fire Code, 0.1 meters. And for handrail extension, according to National Building Code and Accessibility Law, 0.3 meters. And handrail full grip, 0.03 to 0.05 meters. And handrail on ledges, according to National Building Code and Accessibility Law, the measurement is 0.05 meters. For headroom, according to the three laws, the measurement is 2 meters. Next is for crossings. The depth of central refugees, according to National Building Code and Accessibility Law, the measurement is 1.5 meters. Next is the width of carriageway. According to National Building Code and Accessibility Law, the measurement is 10 meters. And for minimum for steady green pedestrian is for National Building Code and Accessibility Law is 6 seconds.
So for elevators, the National Building Code and the Accessibility Code states that the accessible elevator should be located not more than 30 meters. And for the minimum dimension, it is 1.1 by 1.4 meters. And the heights should range from 0.9 meters to 0.2 meters. And for the minimum diameter of the buttons, it should at least be 0.02 meters. And for the maximum depression for the depth of the button, it should only be 0.001. For the vestibule, the minimum net area should only be 1.5 square meters. Minimum opening for its exterior wall is 6 meters. The minimum width is 1.12 meters. And its minimum direction of travel is 1.83 meters. Its ceiling should only be lesser than 0.51 meters. The wheelchair. The National Building Code and the Accessibility Code both state that the length should only be 1.1 up to 1.3 meters. The width of the wheelchair should only be 0.6 to 0.75 meters. The wheelchair turning spaces should only be 1.5 meter. And the comfortable reach of person should only be 0.7 until 1.2 meter. For the comfortable clearance for knee and leg space under tables, it's only 0.7 meters. The stairs. The fire code states that the width should only be 1.12 meters to 1.42 meters, and the height of the riser should only be 0.18 meters, and the minimum tread depth should only be 0.1 meter. And for the tactile strip, it is only for 0.23 to 0.28 meters. But the National Building Code and the Accessibility Code both state that the width should only be 0.9 to 1.1 meter, and the height should only be 0.2 meters. As for the tread depth, it should only be 0.25 at minimum, and the tactile strip 0.3 meters, and the maximum dimension of the landing, it should only be 1.2 meters. Drop curbs. The National Building Code and the Accessibility Code both state that the minimum width should only be 0.9 meters, and the ramp towards the adjoining curbs with a gradient should only be 1 to 12, but the maximum cross gradient for the Accessibility Code should only be 1 to 20. The lowest curb, the lowest point of the drop curb should only be 0.025 meters from the road gutter for both the National Building Code and the Accessibility Code, and the minimum height ramp for the curbs for Accessibility Code is only 0.1.
So now we're going to be talking about the measurements for walkways and passageways. So the measurement for walkways and passageways in building in the National Building Code 1096 is maximum gradient is 120, and for the maximum cross gradient is 100. The minimum width is 1.2 m, and the maximum dimension is 13 mm for both sides. Footway width is 1.20 m. For the accessibility law, PP 344 is 120 for the maximum gradient, 100 is for the maximum cross gradient, 1.2 m is for the minimum width, and 13 mm x 13 mm is for the maximum dimension, and for the footway width is 1.20. And then for the corridors, the minimum clear width for the measurement for corridors in the National Building Code PD 1096 is 1.2 meters, and for the minimum area is 1.5, spaced at maximum of 12 meters. In turn spaces, the measurement for that is 3.5 m. And for the accessibility law, BP 344, for the minimum clear width is 1.2 m, same as the National Building Code, and for the minimum area, we also have 1.5, spaced at maximum of 12 meters, and for the turn spaces, we have 3.5 meters. Now for the washroom and toilets. So the measurement for washroom and toilets for the National Building Code PD 1096 is for the accessible water closet, the minimum area required for that is 1.7 x 1.8, and for the maximum height is 0.45 meters. And for the turning space for wheelchairs, so the required measurements for turning space area for that is 2.25 square meters, and for the minimum dimension is 1.5 meters. So for flush control, we have the maximum height required for that for is 1.2 MTS, and for the lavatories, the maximum height for that is 0.8 meters. For depth, we have 0.5 meters, and for the urinals, we have the maximum height of the lip, 0.48 meters. And for the measurements for the accessibility law, BP 344, we have the minimum area of 1.7 MTS, and for the maximum height, we have 0.45 meters. And for the turning space area for turning space for wheelchairs, we have 2.25 square meters. For the minimum dimension, we have 1.5 meters. For the flush control, we have 1.2 MTS. For the maximum height in lavatories, we have 0.8 meters, and for the depth, we have 0.5 meters. And also for the maximum height of the lip, we have the same measurements for as the National Building Code, which is 0.28 meters.
So, in conclusion, the National Building Code Philippines and the Fire Code Philippines, and also for the BP 344, which is an accessibility law, are essential for safe and inclusive infrastructures. The compliance ensure protection for all individual, and it continues updates and enforcements improve public safety. And that's it for today.